Now I would like to call upon our next guest, who is Mr. Abhinandan Lodha, founder of the House of Abhinandan Lodha. And to host the session, I would like to call upon Rakshita on stage, please. A big round of applause, everyone.
Thank you so much, Amanshu. Thank you so much. Very warm welcome, Mr. Lodha. And as you know, this session is based on building a self-reliant India. Today, the conversations continue to revolve around building an Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we are going to talk about that, about self-reliance, because Mr. Abhinandan Lodha is known to be a risk taker, and he has consistently challenged conventions. He's someone who continues to challenge the conventions in real estate, and his mantra has been that real India is something that lives in Bharat. So, sir, before we go to discussing at length about the real estate sector and Atmanirbharta there and the different nuances, I would like to first ask you, what is true self-reliance in your understanding?
Good afternoon. Firstly, thanks for Republic TV for having me here. Rakshita, true self-reliance is the ability to know that in the most difficult situation, you will be able to find your way through, because all of us are going to go through difficult phases of life. Our country has gone through difficult phases as well. But the culture of India has taught us one thing again and again. You stick to your principles, you keep focused on delivery and the ability to think, and that will enable you to come out of any situation and become larger than life. And that really is the definition of self-reliance.
And now talking about our country, there has been, a long time dependence on external, capital, external validation as well. And today, how important do you think is domestic capital formation as far as India's next phase of growth is concerned, sir?
I would rephrase your question by saying that, dependence on external capital is an essential part of any country in the world. It's not possible. You can be the most developed country in the world like the US, or you could be a developing nation, but external capital attraction is an essential part of your growth story. However, external capital does not come to places where it is not going to get returns. And the creation of returns normally happens with internal capital. Even earlier, India was very, very large on household savings. Almost 45%. We had the largest household savings ratios in the world. I think some amount of that money has now started to move to the capital markets and other asset classes. And that has essentially become the risk capital which India is providing. So the Indian capital is coming in and creating enterprises, and the overseas capital is seeing that return, then coming in and participating in those enterprises. And that is a sea change happening in the country today.
And you are someone who stepped out to build independently. And building from scratch, what would you tell the youngsters about risk, about credibility, about leadership that legacy cannot really provide always?
I think inherently India requires you to be a risk taker. You cannot grow in the country by trying to do something which everybody else has been doing through and through. So I think there is a tremendous premium. And you look at the biggest names in this country. You look at people like Narayan Murthy, who left a secure job when jobs were the norm to set up his own company. You look at people across all spectrums of life, people who stepped out to do on their own, took risks, and stuck to the ability to gather a set of people around them who are as competent or more competent than them and provide stable leadership, have become substantial outperformers. The good thing is, in our country, there is so much scope to do, and there is so much need for innovation, that all of us have a chance to start from scratch and build back in a very, very large way. I think this kind of opportunity is available only in India. And to the youngsters, we should, at their age, be very, very aware that taking risk is an essential part of growing up.
And so we talk about the entrepreneurs, and it's the biggest contributor, as you said, risk-taking ability, and that was the essential part of any entrepreneur. and especially in global stage. Now, how important is the confidence, in a business? And do you feel that there has been some shift in the previous decade, maybe, in your observation, as far as this confidence amongst the entrepreneurs is concerned?
I think pre-2014 and post-2014, we are seeing two different Indias. I stepped out on my own in 2015, 2016 to set up my own business. And I can tell you with utmost confidence that what I have been able to see in the last 7 to 8 years would simply have been impossible in India of pre-2014. I think the Narendra Modi government, whatever they have done, most importantly, they've infused a large sense of self-belief and great pride in India in every Indian youngster. And that enables people to think out of the box and go above what they would believe as normal definitions. So I think large shift, global acceptance, flow of capital has changed, credibility of India has changed, so the ability for people to look at Indians and look at them as trustworthy partners has increased substantially. And we've taken center stage in the world. As India, we should be very, very proud. We are seen and recognized across the world as one of the most innovative and dynamic nations, and our people get the benefit of that. So yeah, the last decade has been phenomenal, and I think the next 10 years will be even better.
So as you mentioned, that a lot has changed. We talk about infrastructure also. Now, physical infrastructure is something that is very much visible. But when we talk about capability, it's something that cannot be easily recognized. It's not really visible. But how do you feel that it is important to build that capability in terms of speed, in terms of really executing that?
I think the best example of that is what we are seeing in one of India's largest business houses today, the Adani Group, the Ambani Group, both, especially the Adani Group. The entire premise success is based on the unbelievable ability to execute at enormous scale. Fortunately, India today supports technology, innovation and skilled labor, which can execute world-class projects at tremendous scale. I think most of us here have seen the benefit of the coastal road. It's a very small development, but the kind of change it has been able to make in daily lifestyle is huge. Development of infrastructure with the kind of execution that we are seeing, in the next 10 years, you'll see cities change very, very quickly.
And talking about cities, India's demographic advantage is something that is an asset to the country. It's called the greatest strength. On that basis, so that we can lead into economic dominance, what should be the focus of India's youth, sir?
Indian youth should realize that the real Indian story is in rising India. We are all very enamored with the cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, they are great. But, I would sort of, talk about one city which is very close to what I have seen development, a place like Ayodhya ji. It's in Uttar Pradesh. Small mini hamlet till maybe 10 years ago. In 2031, the estimated GDP of Ayodhya ji is expected to cross 4 lakh crores. That's probably higher than the GDP of Ahmedabad and Surat today. It is going to be 1.5% of the GDP of all of Uttar Pradesh. More than 80,000 crore rupees of investments in announced under execution government-led projects is already underway. And this is where India is getting built. India is getting built in places where people are ambitious, people are seeing change, the government is contributing to build infrastructure, culture has brought in enormous tourism. And I think the Indian youth should be very, very clear that when I was growing up, probably you had 4 centers in this country where you could go to grow, which was Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai and Bangalore. Today there are more than 400 of them. And let's not forget that the remaining 396 are going to grow much faster than these 4.
Believe that we are going beyond the metro cities, traditional.
I think the story of India is definitely in rising India. I think, the kind of returns which can be made there, the kind of innovation which you can bring there, the kind of consumer acceptance in those cities, the kind of need in those cities for innovation is far, far larger than compared to the 4 large metros.
And talking about real estate's contribution to economic growth, you feel that, today land as an investment is something that should be focused on much more?
I think India as a whole has looked at almost 4 investment asset classes. Gold and silver very natural to us, land very natural to us, savings and equities. That's how we normally look at it. And if you look at there, for example, in the month of January, the total inflow in the gold and silver ETFs put together was 33,000 crores. in equity ETS was 24,000 crores. And my suggestion there is going to be that it's great to own gold for consumption, but for a country like India to put a lot of money in gold as an asset class is not something which the government is advising, is not something which we should be looking at. Real value creation happens through equity and, in my mind, land. Equity because it also provides great growth capital for companies to become much bigger. Land, my history has been that I saw land in Thane in 2003 at 1.5 crore rupees an acre. I'm seeing land in Thane at the same location today at 200 crore rupees an acre. The ability to own retail land in India, keep possession, have a kosher title, and the ability to get approvals. If you're able to do that and hold land for a period of more than 10 years, the kind of compounding return land can create is enormous. And I think today's youth is lucky to be in India where you can effectively buy land almost like you're buying shares. And land has to be an essential part of your investment portfolio.
Now, India is moving towards the centenary of independence. Gradually, we will be coming to that celebration as well. But in your understanding, what could be the 3 structural shifts that must happen in terms of capital, in terms of capability, and in terms of confidence for a self-reliant India, the 3 Cs?
I think capital flow happening to the best asset class, change of allocation, a lot more money going towards equities and land is an essential part. Global capital coming to this country is very, very essential. Capability recognition, I think capability building is already happening across India. We, however, at times get very, very enamored by the ability to speak a certain language. I think the Indian speaking Hindi or the Indian speaking his native tongue in his native place today is as capable or far more capable than any average global citizen. And the recognition of that is happening slowly across India is an essential part of the recognition of capability building across the country.
Right. You mentioned about Ayodhya ji, and we talked about metro cities. In your opinion and your experience, of course, if you could just name some more cities where you see the biggest growth potential.
I think Nagpur is fantastic. Vrindavan, Nagpur, Amritsar. Most of the cities across India where infrastructure development is happening as a joint effort between the state and the central government, and where there's a natural reason for people to come from outside. With Nagpur, it's logistics and warehousing, etc. With people like Vrindavan, it is tourism, etc. Those are the places where there's going to be phenomenal consumer and real estate growth both.
Right, sir. And today, as this is the Mumbai edition, in your experience, if you look back to the journey, working in Mumbai, working for Mumbai, what do you think is the biggest strength as far as the city is concerned, given its struggles? And as the BJP president who was just here, he mentioned about all the challenges the city has faced and continues to face, but there is a vision that everybody has. What is what do you think is the biggest strength of the city?
So, Rakshita, I think Mumbai is, for somebody who wants to work, the best city in the world. The kind of professional ethics and professional behavior in the city, what people say is exactly what people mean. People honor time, people want to grow, people want to deliver, and everybody is more concerned about their part of the pie than what is there in somebody else's pie. I think that is quite phenomenal. Second, I think the Mumbai consumer in general, especially for real estate, is extremely supportive, especially towards entrepreneurship. And I'll give you an example here of something we recently did. There's a location called Naigaon, which is in the distant suburbs of Mumbai. And there's been a conversation around the lack of affordable housing in Mumbai. We said we'll do an affordable housing project there. We recognize some reasons why people are not doing affordable housing, which is largely to do with low margins. And we said, a lot of the money gets wasted in or gets invested in sample of flat site office and sales team. So we did an affordable housing launch in Naigaon, average ticket size of 50 lakh rupees, no site office, no sample flat. Entire launch done by using agentic AI. So not a single human being was involved in the entire launch. We had 82,000 consumer conversations in 6 weeks, and we had the entire asset sold out in less than 2 weeks of opening. And that can only happen in a city like Mumbai, which is constantly saying anything new happening with a name which we can trust, we'll back and support. I think everywhere else it's a trust deficit. Mumbai starts with a trust surplus.
Finally, I would like to ask that what is the potential for the dreamers who come to Mumbai from across the country? And also, I would just try to connect it with the fact that there is a pivot in real estate also towards luxury. If you see, there is there is a lot of talk about what's really in store for the middle class in the city. If you could just explain that.
No, I think Mumbai will see a lot more development happening, which works for the middle class. I think the luxury segment is a very spoken about segment, but I think most people recognize that the mass of the market is in the affordable housing or upper affordable housing category. And eventually, with the kind of SOPs the government is creating, the kind of leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis ji, who has a large focus on affordable housing, I think most developers are going to pivot towards that as well. And it is, building Mumbai, you cannot build Mumbai if you don't build for the middle class of Mumbai. Mumbai's heart, Mumbai's soul is the middle class of Mumbai.
Very rightly pointed out. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhinandan Lodha, for joining us for this very, very engaging conversation. And I think very, very crisp answers there from sir. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakshita. Thank you, Mr. Lodha. And I would like to request you to stay on stage, sir, just for a minute, for a little token of appreciation. Rakshita. And today's session was also an eye-opener. A lot of people these days think of investing in mutual funds and SIPs. So here is a person who is probably now asking you to also think about owning lands. Thank you, sir, for that insightful conversation.